All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are live on a whole bunch of media platforms: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Welcome to the world famous Jonesy and Brown show. My name is John Brown. Across from me is my partner, Mike Jones. Mike Jones, last time we were coming off the Eagles' first loss of the season. They seem to have bounced back. We will talk about that at length later on in the show. But there are actually other issues that we wanted to speak on first.
Oh yeah, let's get into it.
All right, let's get into it, man. We were planning on starting the show talking about Deion Sanders moving on to the University of Colorado. But first, the news of the day kind of caught a lot of people off guard. People were a little surprised by this. Brittney Griner is now free. Brittney Griner is now on her way home, if not home already. That's been a story of pretty much an ongoing story in 2022. She was in prison back in February, I believe. She was
It was 9 months, I believe she was
9 months. She was
incarcerated.
Charged, convicted, and sentenced. And today she was set free. The U.S. Government was able to organize a prisoner swap where they released a Russian prisoner, and the country of Russia agreed to release Brittney Griner. Mike Jones, your thoughts?
You first.
All right, my thoughts were I was happy. I was happy. I believed. I didn't put a lot into these charges. It just seemed the whole situation seemed kind of funny to me. Whereas the magnitude in which the Russian government, the Russian law enforcement seemed to make this charge just didn't seem to fit the crime. And I think it to me it felt like a lot of it felt like a lot of posturing. You know, using her situation as an opportunity to posture, maybe even needle a little bit. But then given exactly the reputation she has in this country, you know, it was met with a lot of outrage. It was met with a lot of support, but it was also met with some indifference too. But nonetheless, I felt like I just never put a lot of stock into the charges, and it just seemed like this woman was being made. It seemed like she was like Nino Brown, and she had like an insignificant amount of possible drug paraphernalia. So for me, I was happy. I'm glad.
Okay.
I'm glad she's out. I'm glad she's free. I'm glad she'll put this behind her. I don't feel the need to condemn her for the charge that was levied against her. I think honestly, this is a big unnecessary reason for her to say, you know what, I'll pack smarter next time. The next time if she ever goes back to Russia again, I mean, I think that door is closed. But nonetheless, I think when she's packing, when she's going on an overseas trip, she'll be a little bit smarter next time.
Absolutely. But okay. So start with this part.
Okay.
I absolutely under no circumstances will you ever hear me say I'm the guy that thinks anybody should be sitting in jail for any amount of time for such a small amount of cannabis oil. Jail time for that is excessive in any case, in my opinion. That's number one. Number two, I am absolutely happy when someone gets to come home from being incarcerated for for such a minute thing. Like, that being said, let's talk about what happened.
Okay.
She was traveling internationally. So you say you bet she'll be more careful when she's packing next time? That wasn't her first trip to Russia. She'd been playing there for years. She should know to be careful packing every time, but especially during a time when they're invading another country.
Yes.
That when they're looking for war, Russia's a hostile nation,
Yes.
and they're the type that'll use people as political pawns. These are things we know about Russia. You should be careful packing every time. And now here's the other part of it. When you're traveling to other places, you have to know what the laws are in those places. Not what the law, you can't say it's clear, so no big deal there. It's highly illegal in Russia to have marijuana. All right, think about it. They acknowledged how minute of amount of cannabis oil it was that she had in her possession, right?
Now,
And they were, hold on, hear me out.
No, I just have a quick. I'm not trying to cut off your point. I just wanted to ask a point of clarification. If you can answer this question, what is it? Because I don't smoke at all. What is the difference between cannabis oil and cannabis?
It's like the vape. It's like the vape pen stuff.
A vape, yeah. Okay.
It's like a vape pen.
Okay. No, I'm just asking.
It's not like old school. I actually have weed, and you know, she just had like the stuff, the medical stuff, a vape pen.
Okay.
Stuff you say, what you see people walking down the street with here all the time.
Yes.
That being said, she's not here. And based on the fact that she has a little vape pen, Russian laws that were on the books, this isn't some new law, laws that books allow her to 10 years in prison. That should let you know how illegal marijuana is in Russia. And having played there for 3 years, she knows this. So I don't approach it like it's some grave miscarriage of justice that happened to some kid backpacking through Europe and didn't know any better. She works in Russia. She should know better. You know?
Yeah. I will say, I'm sorry, go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Happy she's home. But I'm hearing a lot of finally, and then the one, like, people say, oh, well, if it a white person or whatever, they'd have got him out in it. If it was LeBron James, they'd have been got him. No. Okay. This is an international thing, which means you can't just do whatever you want. First of all, they have to go through the criminal process, the trial, the conviction, being locked up, all of that, before you can even get to talking about a prisoner exchange. They have to convict you of the crime and make you a prisoner. So all of that had to happen. That whole process takes time before the U.S. can talk. Because unless the U.S. is just going to go in there, guns blazing, prison break, start a war over Brittney Griner.
Well, you knew it wasn't going to be G.I. Joe up in this piece.
This is not an episode of 24 or something.
I understand that. I understand that.
In real life, this is the way it works.
Yes.
So all the finally and whoever else, like Paul Whelan, a name a lot of people probably don't even know. He's been imprisoned in Russia since 2018, and he's still sitting there while Brittney got free already.
Well, as far I've heard that name today. I've heard that name today too, and I think honestly, if you know how Discord works in today's social media age.
And I'm not saying I'm mad at Brittney coming home, because Brittney's situation, absolutely, that one's probably much easier to work out. because of what she's been convicted of
Yeah.
versus what he was convicted of.
Yeah.
It's a much
Brittney Griner.
so
Brittney
I don't
Griner
begrudge them.
Brittney Griner had a vape pen.
Yeah,
Officer Whalen
is being accused of espionage.
Yeah, they think he's
So
a spy.
that's a much harder deal to work. So
yeah,
now I'm not like wanting to sound like I begrudge them
Mhm.
for taking the deal. Like they took the deal, they made the deal they had available. They
Mhm.
brought a U.S. citizen
Yes.
home, which is what the U.S. policy tends to be. They make every effort as much as possible within reason to bring people home. But there are, like we said, political and other factors involved that
And
make some cases more difficult
and
than
you know
others.
how debate and discord works in this country, where people are quick to fall behind whataboutism. So when we saw Brittney Griner come home, the first thought out of a lot of people's minds was, well, what about Whaling? What about him? And it sounds good to people who are not a fan of your favorite word, nuance, to these discussions. Whereas,
Exactly.
it's easy to say, hey, well, what about Whalen? How come? And also, when it comes down to political conversation and political debate in this country, people are quick to want to hide behind patriotism.
But
Furthermore,
I agree, and
quick,
I agree with you completely.
mm,
This is why
yeah,
I love that we have our own platform where we could actually have this conversation in more than a 280 character bites
exactly.
online. You
People
know
want
what
to
I
hide.
mean?
People want to hide behind patriotism. Furthermore, people want to hide behind our troops. You know, there are
Which is
a
a
lot.
laughable expression to me, but
Yeah,
that's another conversation.
but yeah, no, I get you. But it's like people will use the troops and use our armed forces and our men and women fighting, for our freedom and every cliche you want to attach to them. They will use them as their vehicle to hijack and derail any political conversation people want to have. So here is a person who was charged with a crime. If it was charged, who under Russian law was charged with a crime. If you want
Went to
to
trial,
went to trial, convicted, whatever, and
and then
went through
got
the due
released
process.
went through the due process,
Went
and
through the due process, was sentenced, and then was freed in a prisoner swap. But there are people who will then say, because they might not agree with whatever social stances this person might have taken in the past, say, well, what about the troops? How come we're not freeing the soldiers? How come we're not, which is easy for people who don't want to delve into the nuances of the differences between all these cases. So
and to be clear, like, they take all of these cases seriously, and they make efforts in every case to do what they can to get these people home. So it's not a matter of, well, if it was so and so, anybody, whatever, this would have took longer or this would have been faster. They're trying.
Not that President Biden was the one actually leading and conducting the negotiations, but it's not like he was
like
in
their
there
entire
talking
teams
to them.
of people behind the scenes,
but it's not
working
like
on
President
this.
Biden was like, "Hey, do you want this Marine, this Marine spy to come home? Nah, we good. Just give us BG and we'll call it a day." It's not like that's what he said. It's not like he had. There was a chance to bring them all home, and the president was just like, "Nah, man, just bring me Brittney Griner because I need this WNBA season to jump back off." That's just not the case.
That's not what happened at all.
That's not what happened at
like,
all.
There are literally entire task force of people behind the scenes working, like, between agencies and everything else, trying to get all these things worked out to get people home. And they made the deal that they were able to make to get someone home as fast as possible. It's not a matter of someone else would have got faster or whatever. It's just they got somebody home when they could. I'm happy she's home.
I'm happy she's home.
And I hope she didn't. And I hope she I hope she packs more carefully next time.
Yeah, and I think I hope she packs more carefully, and maybe there are so many different discussions that can be had from this incident.
Mm-hmm.
I am not sure if they're actually going to have them, but nonetheless, the fact that this you know, most of the professional women's basketball players play
Mm-hmm.
overseas because that's where they make their money.
Mm-hmm.
They might get their notoriety and their fame in the States playing in the WNBA, but their bills are paid, their money is made overseas.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that Brittney Griner would have to go to Russia, and there have been players in the past, superstar players in the past, who have sat out entire WNBA seasons in order to focus on winning championships and
Mm-hmm.
playing entire seasons overseas.
Mm-hmm.
So, granted, Jonesy and Brown don't have enough time to dedicate an entire show to equal pay or the pay scale of women's sports. But I
we
do
can
hope
talk about that whenever you want.
I'm sure we could, but we got a guest coming up, and there's other things that you wanted to talk about.
Okay, you're right.
But
because we could talk about that one too. That's a fun one.
But the fact that we got no bosses. We got no sponsors either, so we could talk. We could have that conversation. But nonetheless, I hope that it's a situation that maybe it'll lead to a better situation where at least a player like Brittney Griner doesn't have to play in Russia to make money.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe I don't know, but in the end, I am glad she's home. I'm glad she's home. I'm glad she's free. I do hope that the United States is able to keep up with Officer Whalen and bring him home too. And whatever prisoners are still over there.
Yeah, keep doing all that work behind the scenes on every case you got.
Keep working. I'm pretty sure they're not just like, hey, we got Brittney Griner home. All right, so we good.
Cool now.
We cool.
That's not it either.
No. I'm sure that they're not just like, hey, man.
It's not like they say, all right, we gonna get Brittney. All right, we got Brittney.
We're done. We're done.
They still working behind the scenes on everybody else too.
Yes, definitely. But welcome home, Brittney. Them BG welcome home parties are gonna be lit. But maybe we'll just drink water. we'll just drink some spring water. You know what I mean? We don't need that. That's it. That's it. Stuff that the vapes you can buy at the gas station. That's all we need. Them gas station vapes.
That's all.
That's all we need.
Keep it a PG-13 type.
Keep it a PG-13. We just need a quad. Hey.
Mm-hmm.
That's all we need. All right. Other news going on. Other big news of the week. Coach Prime is on his way to the Power 5.
Deion Sanders leaving Jackson State, going to Colorado.
Exactly. He ain't swag, but he's pack. He ain't swag.
But he got a bag.
I'm not swag, but I'm pack. And I'm back.
How you feeling about Coach Prime, JB?
I will say this because I'm going to put this out here, and then I'm going to let you rip. I'm gonna set this up for you because I'm a ball handling, passing big man. There is a place where you can be disappointed that he's leaving and not think that Deion Sanders sold out.
Mm-hmm.
There is a place. I was excited for Deion Sanders coming to Jackson State. I wanted to see what he would do there. I do believe to an extent he sold the public on a bill of goods that he was going to help bring attention and reform to HBCU football. I think he helped bring attention. I think in one of his many interviews that he's conducted, one of the things that I respected about him and the fact that he went to Jackson State is he had, as a personality, he has the track record and the resume to be able to call attention to certain things that are going on in HBCU football and know that he still has job security. Whereas other coaches might not be able to say this, might not be able to speak like that, speak on some of the pitfalls and the ills. I think he was able to turn around Jackson State. I think Jackson State football was a program that was floundering before he got there. He had people talking about Jackson State that hadn't talked about Jackson State before, might not have even heard of Jackson State. I'm going to be honest. Now, I mean, you know me. We've talked about this on this show. I was born and raised into the HBCU culture. I am a proud graduate of Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland. Morgan State is a part of the MEAC. That is the other Division One. That is the other Division One HBCU conference in football. So that was always Morgan State. That was Howard. That was Hampton. That was Florida A&M. That was Delaware State. Bethune-Cookman. Those South Carolina State. For me, I was aware of the SWAC. I knew what the SWAC was, but for a lot of people, who might just be casually familiar with the SWAC, for most people, when you think of SWAC, you think of Grambling and you think of Southern. Not necessarily Jackson State.
That's fair.
If you want to go a little bit further, you knew Prairie View because all their teams were always bad. Unfortunately, that's what you I was all you always knew because Grambling versus Southern would be on TV every year, and then you heard you would hear Prairie View because like almost every year like their football team would have no wins. I think I first got familiar with Jackson State in high school. Remember when African American College Alliance first came out?
Yeah, I remember.
I had a Jackson State shirt just because no one else had one, and I thought it was hot, and I had a Jackson State shirt.
You would do that.
Yeah, it's fashion.
No, but seriously, like, okay, I understand a measured level of disappointment, but I mean, all right, we are in Philly.
Yes.
Within the recent memory, remember when Matt Rule was coaching at Temple?
Yes.
Temple students were probably a little disappointed to see him go, but they couldn't really be mad because they know, like, all right, we're Temple. Eventually, he was always going to go to the next level if he was having success. That's how coaching works.
Yes.
And they understood that. It's not really any different. If you have a certain level of success quickly, chances are you move up to the next level. That's generally how it goes in sports. At no point do we ever knock anybody else for the desire to compete at the highest level. And then at the same time, if people say like Deion sold out or he betrayed the community and this, that, and the other because we wanted him to do something, not what he wanted to do, what we wanted him to do. And then what are we supposed to do? Say Nick Saban and Kirby Smart, the only people who get to compete at the elite level? Like,
Yeah.
We don't want to see any black people compete at that level either. We just like they all have to go to HBCUs.
Yeah.
Like, what are we like? Which one is it?
No. Well,
Because if
I was
if all the Power 5 schools have white coaches, we'll complain about that. So when a black coach is successful and goes to a Power 5 school, we're supposed to complain about that too. Which one?
no, but I
Like,
think
pick a lane, people.
I think to the example that you gave, one, Matt Rule was at Temple for 4 whole seasons,
Mm-hmm.
and you knew, and yes, but to your point, we all knew that if you were going to have a level of success at a school like Temple,
Mm-hmm.
it wouldn't be long before a Power 5 school came calling, and that's exactly what happened. Matt Rule was able to have success at Temple, and what happened? A Big 12 school was like, "Yeah, bro,
Uh-huh.
come on."
Come talk to us real quick.
And but I think honestly, the difference is the I'm not quite sure, and maybe someone watching can fill me in. I'm not quite sure of the pitfalls in if there are pitfalls and problems with American Conference football or Temple University's football program. Whereas I do think there were expectations made of Deion, but I think Deion actually he played into them too. He said, "I want to fix this. I want to change this." He was pointing out things that are wrong with HBCU football. I think
Mm-hmm.
he did this. So, like I said, I'm not calling this man a sellout because in the end, a point you made on social media earlier this week, which I thought was a very good point. Deion's 55 years old.
Mm-hmm.
How long you expect him to, and as much as you wanted him and as noble as an idea of calling attention to the issues of HBCU football, he also had an agenda that he did not hide either.
Mm-hmm.
I think Deion, in taking this job, tried to play a little of both sides of the fence. I'm not quite sure if he was able to do. Well, he didn't do it well enough because that's why he's faced some of the criticism. I'm still happy he's going to Colorado. Chris Broussard made a good point when I heard him talking about it. I think he felt like Deion took the job at Jackson State because
Mm-hmm.
Deion knew that he wanted to be a head coach, but he did not want to work under somebody else to get there.
Right.
Didn't want to be somebody else's coordinator.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't want to be someone else's assistant coach to get to a head coaching
He wanted
job.
to prove he could be a head coach.
Yes. And Jackson State was willing to say, "Hey, bro, they said, hey, Deion, you bring Prime down to Jackson, Mississippi,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll give you this whole football program." So in the end, he was able to turn it around. I mean, he made them contend.
So he wanted a chance to prove he could be a head coach. They gave him a chance to prove he could be a head coach.
He did
and he proved he could be a head coach.
But I guess
now he's going to prove he could be a head
going.
coach at the next level.
In the end, I felt like Deion came and in his tenure, I think he made promises and fed into expectations that he was going to change the culture. And I don't necessarily know if the culture has been changed. I think he was only there long enough to help change the culture for Deion.
We were expecting Deion to be a career HBCU coach because that's the other alternative.
I don't know about a career. I think I was hoping.
You know how long do you know how long it would take? Okay, now I'm not saying you, but in general, I don't know if people have any idea how long it would actually take for Deion to turn HBCU football into what they want it to be. Like they envision it being like the next Power 5 level football.
Well, look, I would say this, and we got to move on because our guest is here. We got a guest coming up.
Okay.
And I want to keep him. I want to keep our guest waiting because I got a good guest for you this week. All right. I know he was not going to turn the SWAC into a power fight. He'd have to be there 20 years. All right. But I think if you were going to turn, if at least, I would hope he was going to be there at least long enough where the SWAC can move on without him. And I'm not sure if they can. I'm not sure if he's leaving Jackson State in a way where they will continue to dominate once he and his staff are gone.
That's up to Jackson State.
That's up to Jackson State. That's up, that's up to them. But we will see. We will see. But look, my God, we got to talk Eagles. We are Philly dudes. We got to talk Eagles. I got something for you today, sir. We've had a couple former Eagles in this show. We have had this, but I once again I had to dig deep into my Rolodex of close personal friends, and I had to pull out this week's guest. This man is a former Eagle. He's also a former Detroit Lion. He also played for the Cowboys, but we're not going to talk about that. But he is a long-time broadcaster here. He's been on the air for a very long time, and he's very popular. His name rings out in this city, and we love him, and I wanted to bring him on to talk football with us this week. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest on the Jonesy and Brown Show is Mr. Garry Cobb. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing great. How are you guys doing?
Oh, good. Pleasure having you on. Glad you could take the time to join us.
Hey, and listening to you guys, discussion there talking about Deion, I think that, I just want to just throw this point in there that, maybe looking out to another former NFL player might be the thing to do because, you're going to be able to recruit better. And it might be an open door for those guys, and looking and who knows, maybe Deion could at least put them in touch with some people. And with the fact that he brought that attention, the attention is the thing, of course, being able to recruit, because you got to be recruiting. Then, you got to be able to get the dollars. Now, see, what they could really use is a TV deal. See, that's what they need. Is they need a TV deal because if they were to get appealing enough to be on TV, who's looking at TV? Their recruits are looking at TV. So that's what they have to do, and maybe they've taken a step in that direction. But I could see them putting together some type of a plan to try to do that, and then if they were to do that, then you could see where they really made some progress by bringing Deion. But he's got some attention. We're talking about it here. They're talking about it nationally, see, with the fact that he brought that attention. You can't buy that. You can't buy all that. How much would it take? And really, this is what all the big schools have is they have millions and millions and millions and billions of dollars of exposure. And that's the way you recruit. That's the way your game is popular. People look at it on TV. So they've taken some steps in that way. And I don't know that one of the best things they might be able to do is to go after former NFL players as coaches because the guys will come in with a name. And that might be the best thing. And if they could utilize that, especially, but bring in guys that are serious about coaching and they start off there. That's not a bad, if they were to get a pattern like that, I don't think that would be a bad thing because they would get exposure. And that's what they need. They need exposure, and that's going to drive up their revenue. Revenue is eventually going to be what they need. Is they need to get a good TV deal, and if they were to get that, then then they can go from there. But that's what it's got to be.
I hear you, and it's you saw it a little bit. Eddie George at Tennessee State.
Yeah.
My alma mater, Morgan, just unfortunately their football coach just left. We had Tyrone Wheatley from Michigan. He's the head coach for a couple of years, but he left to join someone else's staff. So it's there. Like the precedent is there, and
Mhm.
I too, like, Gary, like you said, I hope this leads to more opportunities, and it doesn't just go back to the way it was. That's my biggest fear.
Yeah.
Like you
My
got
biggest-
Eddie George down at Tennessee State.
Mhm.
So there are a couple guys out there doing it currently.
And then you know, guy comes in, you got a contact with one of with a company that spends a lot of money in advertising. You know, you bring in these companies, you know, because they're getting a appeal. You know, it's got to be that type of a thing. And you know, I think that there's when you're getting attention, that's where it starts at. So maybe somebody could take it with a good plan, and they start, you know, growing and going in the right direction, because that's what you want to do. Is you want to stay in the news, and that's what they need to try to do.
Okay. All right, Gary, you ready to talk some Eagles football, sir?
Hey, you know, hey, hey, if I'm breathing, I am.
All right. But before we get into this year's team, I wanted to ask you a quick question about your career and your time here in Philly.
Yeah,
because you started your career in Detroit. You played most of your career in Detroit before coming to Philly.
6 years in Detroit. Yes, 6 years in Detroit.
6 years in Detroit.
Yep.
3 good years here in Philly. Then you went to Dallas Cowboys.
Hey, now I got to be honest. I told my wife, I said, you know, I don't know about this, but I went down there. Jerry gave me one of his checks. I went over there to the bank. You know what they told me?
It cleared.
This is a good check. Hey, what time you guys want me to be back over there tomorrow?
No, but I guess the question I have for you, you know, you've been doing broadcasting for a long time. When it was time to make that transition out of playing football to covering football, what was it that made you come back here as opposed to Dallas or Detroit?
Well, you know, we really had already made a decision that we were going to live in the Philadelphia area, and it's because really our kids. We got 3 kids. We came here from Detroit, and one day our kids came home and they said, "Look, you guys can go somewhere else, but we're going to stay here.
We're going to stay."
So you know what that told us? We're going to stay here. You know, they were putting their roots down. The kids were in school, had all their friends. They're getting involved in different activities and things. They just let us know, you know what? They're too ingrained in here for us to get up and go anywhere. This is us. And so that ultimately made a decision. But they kind of did it unknowingly, but deep down they were just being sincere that, hey, they're playing on these different teams and they're participating in the different activities at school, and they're getting ingrained, and they got all these friends and their families and things. You know, it just wouldn't make any sense for us to get up and leave. So we decided, hey, this is us. We're here. All
right. Well, now let's get into this year's team. Let's get into this year's team, and let's start with this year's quarterback.
Oh,
because you covered a lot of quarterbacks for this team.
That's right.
You've seen them come and go. You've seen some stay longer than others.
That's right, and still talk to some of them.
That's right. You talk to this one.
Okay.
What is it about this one that stands out to you? What is it about?
Well, you know,
what makes Jalen Hurts the real deal to you?
Well, you know, I'll tell you this. You know, when I came to the Eagles, really, Ron Jaworski was the quarterback, but Randall Cunningham had just showed up at the same year, and it was time really where Randall was here as a second-round draft pick. It knew, you know, I think Jaws knew it was kind of a matter of time. So, but Jaws was a classic pocket quarterback. He was the leader of the team. You know, very intelligent and grounded. Knew the things to do. Like everybody was going over Jaws's place, meaning like he's like one of his golf, clubs or whatever. You know, he hosted the team things. He was the leader of the team, especially during their time with the trip to the Super Bowl and all that, which I wasn't here for that, but I could see the remnants of it, the leadership. Randall was here. Randall had the skills. Like you see the way Jalen's able to run. This is Randall Cunningham. He really came to the NFL. They never seen a quarterback taking off where you don't want to get caught out in open field with him. You know, the defensive players go, no, man, I do not want to get caught out in the open field with this quarterback. So this was really a forerunner of Jalen. You see somebody like Randall, who's able to run and everything. But Randall wasn't really the personality from a leadership standpoint that Jalen is. You know, Randall loved to entertain, and he was a very aggressive about wanting to make big plays. And Buddy Ryan used to say that all we need is 4 or 5 big plays every game from Randall. You know, so he encouraged Randall to improvise, but in some ways that stunted Randall's growth, because he took a while to learn to do what Jalen does now, where Jalen can sit in that pocket and beat you from the pocket. He can sit there. He does not have to run. He can sit there and beat you from the pocket. We saw that against the Titans. He said, well, I'm just going to throw here. You know, against the Packers, he showed you his ability to get out, make people miss. He wasn't just running. He's making DBs look bad out in the open field, shaking them, taking off, putting moves on them. It's showing his athletic ability. And see, before, you know, people like Randall and Michael Vick and Donovan McNabb, you know, there weren't athletes at the quarterback position that could do that, where you do not want to get caught out in open field. Now, see, players talk about that. Well, look, when you're looking at the tape going, man, I'm not letting this dude do that to me in front of a national television audience where my draws are falling down out here in front of the nation. Well, you gonna shake me like this? He did that to Green Bay. He made a lot of their DBs look bad, and they had some of the guys that were in there as a guy to sit there and watch him and make a tackle against him on open field. They had them there for that purpose, and he made them look bad because he's not given credit for how good of an athlete he is. He's a tremendous athlete. That's what he is. I mean, you know, you look at him, he could play running back. I mean, the dude can play running back. Look, he makes people miss.
He's strong enough. He's fast enough.
That's right. So he has that type of ability. But the big thing that he does, and this is the key about him, is he's got these different ingredients. It's his intelligence and his leadership qualities. You know, you can't buy that, because what it does is if the quarterback stays sober, he keeps everybody else sober. Meaning like, hey, we don't need people here tripping and celebrating like we won the Super Bowl, because we haven't won it yet. But we are on the grind. We're getting better every week. That's what we're doing. We're not tripping, like we're not celebrating so hard like we're surprised we beat these guys. No, we expected to win, and now we're staying on the grind because our goal is out there. And the fact that he stays so sober and calm and celebrates some, but then realizes, you know, they still got a ways to go, it keeps everybody else there. And he's such a young guy to be doing that. Usually it's an older guy that's like that. Now, you know, Donovan McNabb was the leader of the team when he was the quarterback of the Eagles. See, he was a quarterback, but, you know, Donovan really got bothered by, you know, the noise here in Philly. You know, like, you know, I was on the radio working on WIP then, all those. And I said, Donovan, man, you don't need to be listening to this stuff. If it bothers you, you don't need to be listening to it. Why are you listening to somebody that's a plumber? You know what? I mean, and a great plumber. The guy might be a great plumber, but he's over here talking about what kind of quarterback you are, how you did this and that. Come on, this dude is not, you know, educated enough in football to be telling you what you need to be doing. Don't worry about that. What you need to be doing. But Donovan let some of that stuff bother him, and he would be talking to me like this. Okay, Donovan. I said, man, Donovan, man, stop listening to it. I mean, I don't listen to it. Hey, but there was a guy called you last night, man, about 9 o'clock, man. I didn't appreciate what he had to say. I said, Donovan, man, you need to stop listening to his stuff. And that's really what I think it bothered Donovan, ultimately made him bitter in certain ways. He felt like everybody's against him, you know, because some idiots calling on the radio, you know, and I shouldn't call him an idiot. Not a guy's idiot. The guy's interested in football, but the guy doesn't know anything about football. The guy, Guys,
It was
sitting
an
there,
idiotic take. The guy's not an idiot, but it was some idiotic takes.
Yeah, yeah. And here you got a guy that's taking his team to 5 NFC Championship games.
Mhm.
Yeah, it was disappointing that they lost 4 of them. But how many people have taken their team to 5? And numerous times he went into those games when they didn't give him enough weapons. Come on. Look at the way, and you got to give Howie Roseman credit. Look at the way he put people there for Jalen Hurts. Now the thing about it is, with Jalen, and I'll talk about something else. Talk about from why this is such an urgent time. I'll talk about that a little later. But Jalen is the leader of this team. He's very sober, very mature, and that's why you have this team. They don't over celebrate if they win, because they know their goal is a bigger goal. The goal is winning it all. Right now, you go 11-1. Your goal is to win this whole thing, because they're good enough to do that. And they just have to play to the level of their capabilities, and they can beat anybody. I mean, we've already seen that, because they can beat you throwing the ball, they can beat you running the ball, they can beat you with their defense. And finally, last week, the special teams showed up. And I know some of the guys probably stepped to some of the guys on the special teams and go, because you get very close to your teammates on a good football team, because you're together all the time. You practice. So at some point, some of the guys say, yo, man, we got too much on the line. You guys on the special teams, I'm calling out every one of you. We see somebody not running down there hard. Look, if you don't want to play on special teams, let us know. We're going to get you out of here, because we have to get good quality play on special teams, because we would hate to have everything else in place and we get to the dance and lose it because of special teams, or we lose some playoff game because of special teams. We do not want that. And so I know that they have started talking to those guys, and they're going to get better effort. And if they have to, they're going to have to put more starters out there. But you can't just be giving up yardage and all that. And I said all of that is because Jalen, he could talk to the special teamers, because everybody there respects him, because the work that he's put in. I don't know if I've ever seen a quarterback make as big of a jump as he made from last year to this year. I mean, just from his understanding of every play, where he's going with the ball, all those type of things, being able to put the pressure on the defense. He's really made a tremendous jump. And think about it. He's made this jump, and you're talking about a guy 24 years old playing at this level. The thing they got to do is they got to get out the money. They got to get for some serious bank. But Jalen is a great person, great leader, and we've seen great quarterback. I mean, so he's a special player.
Now, you started to talk about it just now. What I wanted to ask you with Jalen's growth, can you I can't think of any. Can you think of someone, specifically at quarterback, where you've seen this kind of jump this fast? Coming into this year, JB would tell you I was a guy. I'd say Jalen Hurts has everything I want in a quarterback but an arm, and he still may not have the cannon arm like Pat Mahomes or Josh Allen.
Yeah.
But if you're on time and on target, we can work with that. Without you having the strongest arm.
I'll tell you, some of the greatest quarterbacks I played against, Joe Montana, he didn't have a gun.
On time and on target.
Yes, he got the ball out of there early. He was on target. I've definitely seen, his understanding of where he's going with the ball. You see very decisive about the different reads. And he gives guys a chance to make plays. Like, you tell those guys, and he communicates with them. Look, if I come to you, if you don't catch it, nobody else better catch it. You understand? That's why quarterbacks talk to the receivers, because you come to a guy and he gets the ball picked off, you're not gonna keep coming to him. Even if he's one-on-one, and so you see those guys have not let other people catch the ball. They either catch it or that's it. But I think that the jump that he's made, it's the grind, man. The guy has been working all off season. I hear the guys talking about how, he won't stop, man. He is the driver. meaning going, hey, man, so what time we going to get this workout in this next week? Where are we going to work out at, man? Where are we going to go? You guys want to come down? We want to go down to such and such, and let's see, hey, he flies some guys down there and they practice together. But, the leadership of all the work, putting in the work together, getting used to each other to where they just have a feel. They know when a defensive back is playing things a certain way or the coverage is a certain coverage. They have a feel of what he sees and where he's going. And they talk it through and they've got that chemistry with each other. And you notice, you don't see him hyping Jalen Hurts. Now, see, that's a thing where Randall, he kind of hyped Randall. You can't do that as a quarterback. You're going to get yours. Who is everybody talking about? They're talking about Jalen Hurts. Do you hear Jalen Hurts talking about Jalen Hurts? You don't hear Jalen Hurts talking about Jalen Hurts. And so the guys, all those guys on the team, who are they rooting for? They rooting for Jalen. That's my man, because he talks them up. Because the quarterback's always going to get the mic. The quarterback's got to make sure he takes care of everybody. See, and if he takes care of everybody, what is everybody going to do? My man, hey,
take care of him.
They're going to tell, look, if I don't protect nobody else on the team, you are not saying anything about Jalen Hurts, not in my face. And you even see the guys protecting him out on the field. If you go near him, you got the opposite lineman over there pulling people off of Jalen and stuff. That is the kind of atmosphere. But in order to have that, though, see, you got to lead. You got to be unselfish because you are going to get yours. If the team wins, the quarterback is going to reap. Okay. So you take care of everybody. You don't have to be pushing you, and you see quarterbacks pushing themselves like, Kyler Murray. I see him getting out of line, man. Look, Kyler, you don't be, like he'll throw a ball, let's say, and it's knocked down. And he's over here making signs, yo, man, why you going to play up my man? You don't do that. You don't see Jalen doing that ever.
Yeah, Murray's got bad body language. And it's like he doesn't – it's like maybe because he's spent so much time playing the game at a high level, he doesn't understand how football is produced as a TV product.
Yeah.
Whereas does he not realize that there's going to be a camera on him right after every pass? So when he's making the –
I think he's just trying to, point the finger.
Yeah.
If you point the finger as a quarterback, believe me, the guys are in there. They go out. The boys are going out afterwards, going, man. Here's the line from the lineman. Hey, man, if my guy wrings his neck, man, I ain't gonna be that upset. Because you're not taking care of everybody else, man. And as a quarterback, you're going to be talked about more than anybody anyway. So you're going to get yours. You make sure you spread it out because you're all the ways. The first one they're going to want to talk to, like when you blow somebody out, first one, who they want to talk to?
Quarterback.
Talk to the quarterback.
Of course. Yep.
So you don't ever have to worry about getting your credit. But you take care of the other guys and they will be singing your blessings too. They'll be talking about how great you are and everything. So that's just something that you see Jalen. He does a great job of that. And of course, he grew up, his dad was a coach and he got that training early. But he's got those ingredients as a person to know, look, you take care of other people, they're going to take care of you. This is the way it works, man. And the way he's shining and everybody's happy. All the team, they're happy for him because they know Jalen is not the one that's going to be over here talking about how great Jalen is. They know that he's going to be unselfish.
So if we could go away from the quarterback real quick, on the other side of the ball, there was a guy I was really happy to see they picked up on draft day, but then he hasn't played much all year. Till this past week, Nakobe Dean, what did you see from him this week?
Well, what you're going to see is, the thing about it is this is long-term. It's going to be a long-term things from what I saw this past week, which is you see how comfortable he jumped in there. He's just instinctive about knowing where to go, playing behind those guys. They're keeping him clean. He's going and attacking the run. Very instinctive. Looked like he'd been in there all year, the way he jumped in there, the way he was playing. And this is just going to mean that probably Kazir White is probably not going to get re-signed.
Mhm.
You know, he's probably going to have to go somewhere after this year. But they brought him here to step in. But they had these veterans, and they're playing well. But he just showed it. He's been studying, and this can't say enough about a good team. See, a good team, we've seen on this team numerous times. Everybody steps in. They have been preparing. So he's been preparing and waiting for his turn, because I just looking at him on the tape, as quick as he was when it comes to reading the blocks, even though he hasn't been playing, but he's been playing against the Eagles, in practice. But he just looked sharp. He looked quick. He looked sharp, decisive, and he just showed what we're going to get from a player is that he's an outstanding linebacker. And the thing that's great is they have a big defensive line that's going to keep people off of him, because he's not the kind of linebacker where if you got all these guys coming off on him, he's not going to play as well because he's so small. Mm-hmm. But with having these big monsters up in front of him, which he had before, he had Jordan Davis and those monsters down there at Georgia, that he's quick with reading things, and he's just going to be a playmaker. He's going to be making a lot of tackles. He's good in coverage, and he fits today's game because it's a passing game mainly. Yep. You need a linebacker that's got coverage skills, and I think he's going to have a great career here, and he'll probably be starting next year. You can see that.
And you being a former linebacker, and you've seen your share of linebackers come and go from this city, and you see how this team, the attitude that they have kind of taken over the last 10 or so years to that position. Like, how good is this linebacking core to you now? You see, you see White, you see Edwards, and now you see the type of player Dean has been able to step up and be. Because I think there were some questions.
When limited time on the field, you start to wonder
like why
isn't he playing?
Of course, I didn't like it. The whole mentality they went. Even though in a way I understand it, because you can't. The game is not the game that I played. It's not the same game where the linebacker is as valuable, or at least as many linebackers are valuable. You still have linebackers on the field. You just don't have as many. And really, if you're a linebacker that can't run, you're a liability. Can't afford to have you out there because they throw the ball so much, and they get linebackers having to cover the tight end, got to cover the backs. If you can't run, you're a liability. So you got to be able to run. Kazir White is better as a pass coverage guy than he is against the run. That his strength is in pass coverage because he's a converted safety. Now, is he able to make plays against the run? Yeah, he makes some plays, but that's not the best part of his game. He's outstanding in pass coverage. And the thing he's able to do is he reads the coverage. He's a safety. So he knows the routes they're running, and he's got a good feel for that. And Edwards too. I mean, I got to take my hat off to Edwards. He's shown everybody how good of a player he is. He's gotten better while he's been here. He's gotten better and better, and he just shows great instincts for making plays, getting to the football. They've had tremendous linebacker play so far this season, and you got to give the defensive line credit for that, is especially with these big boys they brought in here now. These guys are block eaters, meaning like they eat up blocks. They're always going to demand a double team. It's very hard to single block these guys. So if they got to double team those guys, it leaves the linebackers free to go. See, and that's what you have. And playing behind, big people like that really is great for the linebackers. It's going to keep them free. They're going to be able to make a lot of plays in the running game. And then both of these guys are very good at playing the pass. And that means they're smart. They study alignment. They study the different routes. You look at what people like to do, and they have a feel for where the quarterback's going to go. And they're able to play smart football. And you can't say enough about the linebackers, how well they played so far this season. It's been outstanding. And, they haven't been perfect, but they've gotten better. And, the strength of their game, I think, is against the pass. And the NFL is a passing league now. It's more passing than it is running. Mm-hmm. And, of course, the quarterbacks are the key. If your quarterback's playing well, then your team is playing well. And that's why, Jalen right now is a leader. And as far as I'm concerned, I'd have to put him ahead of Mahomes right now as the MVP of the league because he's the main reason that they're winning. You got to give the defense credit, the defensive line. They've done a great job. But the number one reason that they are where they are is Jalen Hurts, and I think he should be the leader right now in the MVP race.
So you have Jalen Hurts in your MVP race. Would you put Nick Sirianni in your Coach of the Year race?
Yeah, I would have to. I mean, with a team 11-1, I think he deserves that because, this team. You look at where they have progressed from last year, where they're at right now. I definitely think that you would have to say that he's among that group. I think that there are probably some other guys that I might put ahead of him. And the reason being is Howie has stacked this team with a lot of talent. That would be the only thing going against him is that you look at this team and you say that Howie really, he's done a monster job. I mean, look at bringing in Chauncey Johnson, Gardner Johnson, bringing him in. I didn't know that he was such a hawk. A ball hawk. I mean, look at the plays he's made, and then he goes down, and this other guy they bring in, he's playing well,
making plays too. Yep.
Yeah, I mean, it's so you got to give Howie credit for that. Look how much talent they brought in on this team. Now
Bradbury, that's been a perfect addition.
Yeah, and Bradbury is I love to go in there and talk to him because Bradbury's a old head. See, very mature. And he looks at the game and he's smart. I mean, he knows the game. He's not just out there just going through the motions. No, he understands the essence of the game. So that's why if you do certain things, like once they took one of the receivers for Tennessee off the field, the number one pick that they picked in place of
Traylon Burks.
Burks. So they take him off the field. He's the only speed they had, the burner speed. So once they took him off the field, they're locking down and they're not backing up. They move up on all the other receivers because they know these guys can't run. They ain't running they're going to be running those short routes. Well, the game was over because they're locking down all the short stuff. They're jumping it. Now that's just smart football, see? And Bradbury's got that type of intelligence. The same thing with Slay. Smart football players. So you got those guys. And see, this is one thing that, Howie had made a mistake years ago where they had that team where they had all these, they brought in a lot of free agents and things. But see, it's not about just the free agent. It's the personality of the guy.
Yeah.
You got to bring in guys that are team first. See, you can't be going getting guys that are going to come in and say, oh, me. No, they got guys that know and understand and intelligent about winning. And they are, unselfish players. And of course, Jalen's leading this thing because he's unselfish. So then you got everybody else getting in line. You see this team. This team is not talking about stats. How many of these guys be talking about stats? They don't talk about stats. They talk about winning. And that atmosphere is what you want on a team. And that's the way you build a team rather than just trying to put together all-star teams. So you want to build a group of guys where they're playing together. And that's what they did. I mean, even like Gardner Johnson, if you would look at him, you could see he's kind of brash and everything. But the thing about him, he's a team player, though. He likes to have a good time. He's going to give you some fights. And, he's going to be himself and everything. And he's got a lot of personality and everything. But he's a team player. You don't see him, where anybody has any trouble with him. He's going to do his job and try to help this team win. And
not out there getting a bunch of dumb penalties and stuff like that. Yep.
That's right. You don't see that. You
not getting into stuff after the whistle. Just out, just play the game.
Now, see, these points you guys just made right there. See, some people don't look at that, but see, the Eagles are looking at that type of thing, and you look at all the guys they brought in. Every guy is a team-oriented guy. He's a professional. Is very mature about the way he plays the game. That's the kind of guys they brought in, and that's why you notice. How many of these guys have been able to come in and flow? There hasn't been any talk of any problems with anybody. And that's why Howie learned from that last time. Make sure you bring in the right type of players. And they
look at the two defensive tackles that they brought in when Davis went down.
That's right.
They were able to just come in and
fit right in.
And fit right in.
That's right. And you don't have any nonsense. You got everybody trying. What do I need to do to win? And they're students too, smart players. They knowing what they're supposed to do, and then knowing how to prepare and everything. That's why you just got. It's just good stuff.
Mm-hmm. And Dominican Sue had a little bit of a reputation for nonsense earlier in his career. There were some. He had some incidents, but even now he's come in.
Yeah,
he does his job.
That's right, and he did early in his career. He did have that a reputation for things, but you see, he outgrew it, and so you got a guy comes in. You hear the guys talk with him, like, look, man, hey, what do we need to do to win? Because they know if we win, there's plenty of fruit for everybody. You know what I mean? Winning takes care of everything. A lot of the guys that are on the team now, they're probably not going to be back next year, and I might as well get into that a little bit. Is that they got to pay Jalen. When they have to pay Jalen, they're not going to be able to pay everybody. So that means that's why they got those 2 first-round draft picks. Those
are huge.
Those picks are huge. They're going to be utilized, and so they're going to be picks that now they got to get those picks right because those guys got to come in and play because they can't pay you can't pay everybody, and so you're going to see that. And so chances are, who knows? It could be a cornerback. It could be a cornerback. Could be one of those picks because I doubt if Bradbury will be back. He's probably somebody else is going to be willing to pay him.
Because Maddox already has an extension, so he'll be around for a couple years.
That's about what I said about the linebacker position. With Nakobe Dean stepping in there, you better believe chances are maybe Kazir White is going to sign for somebody else because they can't pay him. They go, no, we got to have one of these young guys play that because we can't pay everybody, and some of these guys aren't getting paid yet. See, so you're going to have those in those positions. So they're going to have, that's what they're going to be dealing with next year. But this year, that's why there's an urgency to where this team is capable of winning this thing. They got to go ahead and do it because you're not going to see the same team back next year.
So
these guys
you
hear
him say he's saying the right thing. He said we're capable. I heard it.
So as you say
capable.
That, is there anything to fear in the NFC from Minnesota or Dallas, the 2 best records? I'm leaving San Fran out because their quarterback's down.
Yeah, but I saw the quarterback this week. I thought he played well enough. I see a young guy that he knows where he got to go with the ball, and he's gonna, I just think they're gonna have to be dealt with. But Dallas is clearly one of the teams. Dallas has got a quality team. Now, are they going to be able to move the ball against the Eagles like they've done some of these other teams? Probably not at that same level, but it's going to be a fight, man, because they got a good defense. I mean, they got an outstanding defense, and they got some, people on their defense. They're hunters, man. They are coming. Those boys are coming off that corner and everything. I mean, it's great football, but so I think they beat Minnesota. I think they're better than Minnesota. I think that, but I got to give Minnesota credit. They've got some outstanding players, and they got a good football team too. But I just think it's probably going to be between the Eagles, the Cowboys, and the 49ers as to who goes to the Super Bowl. I think I put the Eagles in the lead because I think that they're further along with the fact that they got so much versatility, and but it's going to be one particular Sunday. The game is probably going to be played at Lincoln Financial Field, and the Eagles just got to show up as the better team that day. All what was done during the regular season, that does not help you on the day of that game. You have got to win that game, and that's where, and they've got to start doing things now. And see, a guy I played with in college, Ronnie Lott, he used to tell me how, once they got to this time in the season, some of the coaches, like they would have some of the guys start doing research on the people they know they're going to have to play. So they start drawing up plays for their game against the Cowboys, or drawing up plays against, let's say they're going to play the Washington Redskins back then, or, so they start drawing up plays, And that's what the Eagles have got to do. They got to start where they got some staff, start researching these top teams, because ultimately that's who they're going to have to beat to go to where they want to go. All of the, the pats on the back and all that, it's not about any of that anymore. It's not even about these games. They want to do different things in these games to prepare so they're ready when everything is on the line in these playoffs, because they're going to have a chance probably to host everything in order to take that trip to Arizona. Now I'm already going to be out there. I got to do stuff for the NFL, so I'm going to be out there. I just hope that team Eagles is going to be out there.
Hold on.
Yeah,
you going to be in Arizona?
I will be.
He's going to be there no matter what.
He's going to be there no matter what. So they're going to put you in like a suite, right? You're going to have like a suite
taken care of. Oh yes.
Yeah. So that means, if a couple of young independent podcasters wanted to take a road trip out there, because look, we can't afford to fly.
Well, you guys go get ready.
Road trip. You can take a road trip. I'm flying. You can take a road trip.
Well, look, I'll have to leave before you. I'll meet you out there. But if we wanted to, kind of hang with the former NFL player and
we could do that.
Broadcasting legend.
They have some really nice events prior to the Super Bowl. You guys would really like these events they're gonna have.
Okay, well, look, man, if you need to put a couple assistants down, a couple production assistants, whatever title you want to give us, you want to just tell people we work for gcobb.com or whatever, Gcobb Enterprises, whatever it is,
I got
look out for a couple brothers.
I hear you. I got you.
Man.
Yeah, look, this is on tape. We recorded it. Look, Gcobb going to take care of us, all right? We in there, man. Real quick before we let you go, what are you working on now, sir?
Well, really now, I'm getting ready to, in fact, do some things on a podcast, because I just have people asking me that, I haven't gotten into it, but I am going to get into it. But I just want to make sure I do it the right way, and I really want to get into it and talk about, football. Yeah, that's what I'm going to major in. But I want to talk about the other sports too, because I can't help but look at the Sixers, and I want to say something about them. I look at the Phillies and what they have done.
Yes, sir.
Man.
I'm going like the Phillies, man. Wow. I know the owner, and I just have to give him a pat on the back for the job he's done to show how serious he is. Because
absolutely.
With the Mets, you got to stay up with them and all the things they're doing up with some of these teams spending all this money. But they said, you know what? We are getting the pieces because, we came close. They just basically said, look,
we want to win.
We want to win this thing. Mm-hmm. And so I see, sports here in Philadelphia, you can't help but be excited by a lot of things that are happening. So I definitely want to talk about it. And I just don't want to be limited to the Eagles, even though, of course, that's probably my number one focus is without a doubt the Eagles, because, I've been on the team and been around it so long. But this is an exciting time in sports in Philadelphia. And I would just tell everybody, just keep your head on the swivel, because I'm going to be doing some stuff with the podcast and having some fun with it. And, I definitely would letting you guys know as well.
Oh, we'll be looking forward to it.
Definitely. All right, well, look, man. Gary, it's always a pleasure, man. Thank you. I appreciate you coming on, man.
Thank you.
All right. And real talk, I've always appreciated you, always respected you. Glad, we can still be cool. Thank you for coming on the show, man.
My pleasure. And, what about them tickets to Arizona, man? The Eagles. Hey, the boys got to get it done. That's the thing, man. That's the thing now. They got to finish strong, and they got all the pieces there, and I'm just so happy for so many of these guys, and of course for Jalen Hurts, the way he stepped up, just tremendous.
Yeah, because he definitely ain't trying to come out there for no Dallas Super Bowl or no Minnesota Super Bowl. I might not even watch him. Dallas Cowboys make it to the Super Bowl. I might not even watch. I might try and find like a Marvel movie marathon or something to watch that day.
Something.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, the Eagles gonna have to do it because they do have a good ball club.
Mm-hmm. All right, real quick before we let you go, what is your? Do you have a prediction for Sunday? What's it looking like on Sunday against the Giants?
Well, against the Giants, definitely, I think it's going to be a game where the Eagles handle them. I think they handle them easy. The game will be over, I think, in the third quarter. They're going to stop, Saquon because they really don't have any other weapons. So I see the Eagles probably win this 31-13.
31-13.
Yeah, 31-13. Yeah.
I like it.
I like it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that is Garry Cobb, the great Eagles linebacker, broadcaster. If you're in Philly, make sure you check him out on Game Day Live on Fox 29. That's Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Okay. Garry, thank you, my friend.
My pleasure. Have a good one.
All right, you too, man.
Thank you.
Peace.
Oh, man, that's good stuff.
You like that? Hey, man. Hey, man, Gary's a good dude, man.
Oh, no, that was fun.
Dude. That was
fun.
All right, man, we got to get out of here. Garry said 31-13 Eagles. What's your prediction?
I like the way he's thinking. I was thinking maybe a little more 35-17, but I think the Eagles are comfortable. Daniel Jones is still the Giants quarterback. Saquon is healthy and he's a beast. But we got goons in the middle now.
But Daniel Jones always seems to be able to pull out some Sports Center plays when he plays us.
This ain't that team. This defense is different.
Yeah, God, I hope so. I am not. Look, man.
Avonte Maddox might play this week, and if he plays, that means you have all three corners out there, so you can cover. Your D line no longer leaks with Davis back. The additions of Joseph and Sue in the middle. Saquon is good, but it's going to be a tough day for him.
Yeah. I am going to say 24-13.
Okay.
24-13. I don't know if they're just going to put up a whole bunch of points on these guys, but I think, maybe they pull away late, get that extra touchdown. I think they keep it close enough to keep you worried. Because the Giants at some point in time, people were talking about the Giants like, okay, this team might be good. They've kind of struggled over the last couple of weeks. So I'm gonna say 24-13 Eagles.
I like it.
All right, what'd you say? I'm sorry. What was your prediction?
I had 35-17.
35-17. All right, ladies and gentlemen, that has been the Jonesy and Brown Show. You tell us what you think of today's show. Hit us up on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter at Jonesy and Brown or at BITW Sports. You can go to BITWsports.com, download this podcast. Wherever you get your favorite podcast, make sure you follow us on social media and do all that. All right? That man to my, screen left is Mike Jones.
That's John Brown over there.
All right, y'all. Have a good week. You did. See, there you go.
I got it right that time.
There you go. You there. I'm here. Y'all out there. Check us out next week, man. We'll talk to you guys later. Peace, y'all.
Peace.